Welcome to the Marshall Pruitt Podcast. In our Inside the Sports Car series, we have a special edition for you. 2 episodes in one day. Just posted our standard weekly edition of Inside the Sports Car Paddock, led off by Jeff Brown, Supreme Race Engineer, educating us on the use and value of shaker rigs and a variety of other guests on that show. Now we have the WEC World Endurance Championship Prologue special, captured by my friends DailySportsCar.com's Graham Goodwin and Stephen Kilbey. Those two crazy folks open up in Barcelona with a nice, healthy walk down pit lane, looking at the new teams, different drivers, all the things folks can look forward to in this upcoming 2019 to 2020 FIA WEC Super Season. Following their walk, move into a nice collection of interviews, beginning with my man Gustavo Menezes, fellow Californian Rebellion racing driver as well, talking about Rebellion's 2019 to 20 season, what he expects to happen there with his role in the team as a veteran, and also speaks about their effort at the Prologue. Next, we move to the ACO sporting director, my friend Vincent Beaumesnil, catches up about equivalence of technology and how that has not worked to date to balance LMP1 hybrid and non-hybrid cars, and now that they are moving to balance of performance, definitely gets into that conversation and theme, and also speaks about the hypercar announcements at Le Mans. Next, we move to Jonny Adam, Aston Martin Racing factory driver, competing with the TF Sport team in the WEC, speaking about the upcoming season and the new Vantage AMR. Also offers his thoughts on the big GTE AM entry and the new Success Ballast rules. Move to another friend of the show, Lawrence Tomlinson, CEO of Ginetta Cars, talking about Team LNT's effort at the Prologue, their new G60 LT P1 cars development. Also thoughts on EOT changes this upcoming season and bringing back the Team LNT name to sports car racing. We're sticking with the team principal theme, that being Sam Hignett from Jota Sport and also the Jackie Chan DC Racing effort, talking about a lot of burning topics in LMP2, why the team has been split into 2 this year, their choice of tires, thoughts on hypercar, and how that might impact LMP2. Then we get into the final interviews, that being James Calado with the AF Corse GTE Pro Ferrari effort, talking about winning Le Mans, the upcoming season here, faults in the Ferrari 488 GTE Evo, also the competition in Pro with fewer cars now that we have both Ford and BMW exiting the effort there. Slide into Alex Lynn next, another Aston Martin Racing factory driver, looking at their upcoming season in GTE Pro, the struggles they had during the last season getting to grips with the new car, and exactly what did happen at Le Mans with the car on pole and then going absolutely nowhere in the race. And we close this 25th episode of Inside the Sports Car Paddock, brought to you by Cooper Tires and the Justice Brothers, with Anders Fjordbach from the High Class Racing LMP2 effort, talking about the team's step up to the WEC from the ELMS, thoughts on moving to Goodyear tires as well, and expectations of Kenta Yamashita, who comes in via the Toyota Gazoo Racing Development effort, where he currently leads the Super GT points, now part of the team's program. So that's it. Episode 25, Prologue Special, brought to us by not only Cooper Tires and the Justice Brothers, but also Graham Goodwin and Stephen Kilbey of DailySportsCar.com. And let's get going with those 2 lovely lads in their walk down pit lane at the Prologue.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Marshall Pruitt Podcast, Inside the Sports Car Paddock, WEC Prologue Special here at Barcelona. It's me, Stephen Kilbey, Racer.com's WEC correspondent and deputy editor of DailySportsCar.com, and with me is the editor of DailySportsCar.com and Marshall's co-host, Graham Goodwin, and we're going to do a bit of a pit walk before we get into the nitty-gritty of talking to some of the personalities who are here for the Prologue test before the 2019-20 season. Graham, welcome along. We're going to start at one end of the pit lane with Proton competition, and we're going to work all our way down to the scrutineering bay. How are you feeling?
blisteringly hot. It's been blisteringly hot, hasn't it, for the entire weekend. We luckily ducked some really heavy thunderstorms just before we arrived for the LMS weekend. Lots of good racing, fast action there with that packed grid for the LMS and the Michelin Le Mans Cup. 30 cars here now for the WEC Prologue. Not quite the full entry for the season. Just one or two cars missing. But lots and lots of stories. You're right here with Dempsey Proton. They've had a busy weekend already. One of the teams that carried over from the LMS, and lucky they did have the WEC Prologue because they needed one of their WEC cars earlier on in the week, where one of the in fact, the one car that had the LMS was dinged in first free practice, did more damage than they could fix here at Barcelona, so had to bring the WEC number 88 car into service. That was completely rebodied and has now been rebodied back again and re-prepped for its service here for the WEC. So Christian Reed and the boys and girls at Dempsey Proton have had a busy start to the week.
Certainly have. And next door to them we've got the Racing Team Nederland effort, and they're one of two teams in LMP2 that have changed chassis for this season. They've got an Orica, haven't they?
Well, they've changed two things. Changed chassis, changed team now with TDS Racing. Great to see Francois Perraudot here catching up with his old team. We'll talk about Francois' car this year in a few minutes. But yeah, Fritz van Aert continues with the Minardi tribute livery. Looks fantastic in the yellow and black, this Orica. And we'll have four drivers driving this week. Well, they keep saying weekend, it's midweek, isn't it? Fritz joined by, of course, Guido van der Garde, Nick de Vries, that is the full season crew carried over. But for a couple of races this season, going to be joined not by Nick de Vries, currently leading the F2 Championship, of course, but by coming man in LMP2, Job van Uitert. He's here to drive the car. And looks like we're going to be seeing a little bit more of him in WEC as well as the LMS and probably elsewhere, because after a blistering run yesterday in the LMS, dominant win by a lap with the G-Drive Racing team, also by the way with TDS Racing. I just think that guy's career looks like it's going to be going into the stratosphere. First opportunity, by the way, to talk about tyres and tyre battle that's going to be underway in LMP2 in the WEC, and a returning name, of course, to international endurance racing with Goodyear. And Goodyear certainly have tyres on this number 29 car and several others beyond. It's going to be another thing to keep an eye on, keep an ear on for the coverage we give to the WEC through the season.
Next up, we've got a garage which is going to get a lot of attention this week. It's going to be very busy, and that is the Porsche Motorsport team, who have got two GT Pro cars again, but it's a new car, isn't it, Graham?
It's a new car, it's a new look to the car. So the Porsche 911 RSR-19, or the snappy title there, different livery than we've seen before, keeps that key Porsche white. The base colour is white with some red, some grey, and some black, and the grey and the white in the details on these cars are reversed between the 91 and the 92. Loses a lot in the telling, but gives us an opportunity to have a bit more of a visual clue as to which car is blasting by us. Defending world champions, of course, in the 92. The 91 will be looking to reverse their fortunes of coming second last year.
And we'll all be looking forward to hearing what it sounds like, because the older spec car sounds phenomenal up close, doesn't it?
It's going to be quieter, without a shadow of a doubt. Instead of the straight-through pipes through the rear diffuser, this has got a side exit exhaust. It will be quieter. It's going to be, for me, about the quality of the sound rather than just the quantity, if you like, of it. But let's wait and see what comes forward. Next up, Stephen, it's the unique thing that WEC brings to international race meetings.
Yes, LMP1 and Rebellion. I think it's safe to say it's been an odd month for them, or since Le Mans, with the news that they won't be bringing two cars to Silverstone for the opening round of the season. It remains to be seen whether they will run two cars, but they have got two cars here at the Prologue, and they will be running both of them.
They'll be running both of them with full driver squads for both. It'll be one car for the full season. I believe they've withdrawn the other car as a full season entrant, but they will retain the right, or retain the request to run a second car at selected races. That might only be Spa and Le Mans next year, but the one of the three are here, all over carbon, And an interesting lineup of drivers here. Some familiar names to the team with Bruno Senna, with Gustavo Menezes, Nathaniel Berton, who joined the team from Sebring onwards. But then Norman Nato is here as well, and Felipe Nasr is here as well. Both men we know are capable of being very quick indeed in prototype race cars, and let's wait and see whether or not they've got a future in LMP1.
Well, both Rebellions are in bare carbon, and next door there are two more bare carbon prototypes, and that's the Jota and the Jackie Chan DC Racing Orica 07s. They'll both be sampling Goodyears, and I think it's safe to say that for Goodyear and for a team like this is going to be an important week testing out those new tyres.
It's important for Goodyear, replacing the Dunlop brand, of course, in the FIA World Endurance Championship, but with a brand new range. It's not just relabeled Dunlops, it's a brand new set of brand new selections of tyres, as indeed, by the way, are all of the Michelins in all of the classes this year. So it's all new tyres for 2019. We'll talk a little bit about that when we get next door to the garage we're at now. Still to finally declare their selection at Jota Sport, but the fact that they've got a massive Goodyear brand on the side sort of tells the story as to where the favoured choice is going to be. Different look for the 38 with the three drivers from last year's Dragon Speed effort, a race-winning effort, of course, with Ant Davidson, Ricardo Gonzalez and Pastor Maldonado. At the moment, Pastor is having a seat fit in the 38 car. They transfer over to Jota Sport. And Jota Sport, despite the fact they're a very well-known name to those of us that kind of prowl the paddocks in international endurance racing, their first effort under their own name in the full World Endurance Championship this season with this car.
Fantastic. And more GT Pro cars coming up next. It's the Aston Martin Racing effort. They've only got two cars out of the three that they're going to be bringing to the championship. They've got the 97 in Pro and the 98, which is an AM car, and this is the first time, Graham, we've seen the number 98 as the current spec Vantage.
And the current spec Vantage, and in the current factory livery as well. So the three cars are going to carry broadly the same livery. There will be some differences in some of the styling cues as always on this car, though oddly both at the moment are carrying red/orange highlights of the car. We'll wait and see whether or not that carries through to the season. 95 car is not here. It doesn't have to be here. The rule is one car per class per team as per the entry. The irritation, I guess, for Aston Martin, and I genuinely don't know what the answer is to the other two factory teams, is they will not have the 2019 Michelin rubber here. Don't know whether that's going to be the case for the Ferrari guys or for the Porsche guys. Aston Martin have confirmed that they won't. They're not very happy about the timing of this test.
And they're not going to have all their drivers by the end of this one either, because a great number of them are going to be heading to the Spa 24 Hours, and I believe it's 17 drivers are going to be racing at Spa 24 Hours and competing at Prologue.
That's absolutely right, 17 drivers, and a degree of controversy we're trying to unpick at the moment as to a bit of a late potential change in the sporting regulations for Spa, which might mean that some of these guys have to miss an awful lot of running. Waiting for that one to play its way out, but it does seem that there has been a play by somebody in the organisation around the Spa 24 Hours to effectively say you're not allowed to present a force majeure argument for not attending the drivers' briefing on Wednesday in Spa if you're attending another motorsport event. Doesn't strike me as being the most sensible way to carry forward with one massive international sporting event at the Spa 24 Hours, and clearly something that's designed to promote another massive sporting championship, the FIA World Endurance Championship. These guys need to get it sorted.
In front of us next is Cool Racing's Orica, and they're another team, Graham, that's been here for a while at Barcelona, because they were in the European Le Mans Series meeting over the weekend, and I think it's safe to say that they look ready for this. They've come up from P3 into P2 racing in the ELMS. They're now doing the WC, and they look up for it. They look great.
I mean, we had the Alexander Coigny, Antonin Borger, and of course the Mercurial, now 4 times LMP2 winning Le Mans driver, that is Nico Lapierre, and they were right in the mix in Barcelona all the way through that race. A little bit of bad luck on a couple of strategy calls, but I think they're going to be a force in the FIA World Endurance Championship in their first year. More to the point, really emotional, in a very positive way, display from this team. This is something these guys have absolutely dreamed of. Nico Lapierre has been brought on board to add some fire in the belly of that effort, to add some steel behind the way in which it's delivered, and that plan appears to be working.
We've got a striking car in front of us now, Graham. It's TF Sports' new Aston Martin Vantage, which I believe was very, very, very new, and it only has a handful of kilometres on the clock because they've only just received it a few days ago. And it's striking because it's in red.
You know what? Sometimes you can think, oh, it's another red Ferrari, it's a bit boring. Somehow, we saw this car for the first time yesterday evening as the sun started to go down. It looks amazing. It's red with black details on it. I think this is going to be a standout fan favourite this year. It does look astonishing. It really, really suits the very different look of the current Aston Martin. And in particular, the rear-end view of this thing, you have the massive rear diffuser that the current GTE class actually encourages. That is going to be a fan favourite, there's no doubt in my mind.
And a contender, because we expect Sally Yollock, Jonny Adam and Charlie Eastwood to do the full season as a trio this time. There's going to be no rotating third chair, as I understand it, at TF Sport this year. So I think they're going to be amongst the top dogs in GTM.
They are certainly a team that is looking to do all they can to give Sally Yollock an opportunity for a title-winning run. Sally, very keen to commit to, a future in endurance racing that may not just be in a GT, and there might well be prototypes in the future. We've got one of the factory Ferraris, the 71 car, cranking over at the moment, so we're just going to stay clear of that. New base colour for those cars, as the ever-smiling Eduardo Freitas, our race director. Eduardo, for the Inside the Sports Car Paddock, I'm going to ask you to do one thing and one thing only. I never ask you this. Count down from 10 to 1.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Green flag.
Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
The voice
Eduardo, an absolute star of the FIA WEC. So yeah, next door to them is MR Racing, another one of the GTM teams, and what is a huge entry this year, and I think they're going to be back for more and hoping for some better results.
Yeah, another car with a revised livery. As I said earlier, the AF Corse cars move off from that pearlescent Rosso colour. We're going to move away from that car because it is very, very loud in pit lane now, to a deeper, flatter red. But look great, actually, the two Pro cars. Brand new cars here this weekend, as they always are for the FIA World Endurance Championship. They always run a new car. And we always look at the history of these cars as we come by at the start of every season. And there's one of them that is particularly special. Nothing against the 70 car. That is the car that raced for the team last year. But the car next door, which is the 62 Red River Sport car, that'll be Johnny Molam with his clients at Red River Sport Agency, Bon Grimes, and Charlie Hollings and Gritzy Charlie getting a go. And I'm going to ask you, Stephen Kilbey, to have a look through the windscreen at the firewall and tell me what you see.
I can see, I believe, that this is the number 51 car from Pro last season.
This is the Le Mans winning car from the Super Season. It is the Le Mans winning car in the 70th anniversary year of Ferrari. That, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the most valuable racing Ferraris in contemporary sports car racing. Looking behind, by the way, they're just about putting together the all-car photographs, so we might miss one or two of the cars. Just in the Golf Racing Porsche popping on through, new driver lineup for that car, although a very familiar looking livery. But yet the 51 car from last year, the Le Mans winning car, becomes the 62 car for Red River Sport this year.
No pressure, boys, keep it on the island.
Absolutely. Then we've got the 83 car. Now this is, we talked about Francois Perraudot a little earlier. This is going to be Francois' weapon for the 2019-2020 World Endurance Championship. Of course, a championship title he won just a few years ago in GTM. Goes back to that after a couple of adventurous years in LMP2, and I think he's quite happy to be back. That car, by the way, playing the same game, has 57. Pop quiz, Stephen, what was from the car 57 last season?
Car 57.
Car 57. It was Car Guy. That was the Car Guy car from the Le Mans 24 Hours. Then we have the 54, another returning effort in GTM. This is the VistaJet-sponsored Spirit of Race car, Thomas Fleur, with ex-Formula 1 star Giancarlo Fisichella, and the man with the most Italian name in history, Francesco Castellacci, will be aboard the 54 car. We're not done yet, though, with AF Corse, because there's one more car, and this car, Stephen, marks the return to the World Endurance Championship with a prototype from AF Corse, because no longer is it Cetilar Valoba Corsa. Cetilar Racing with AF Corse is the car now. Before we talk about this car, we're going to turn around and we're going to look at one of the biggest stories here at Barcelona, and we're going to watch this car just be towed by on its way to the photograph, because this is the number 5 Ginetta AER, one of 2 with Team LNT, and the car's finished in almost all over carbon, but with some brilliant kind of vinyl highlights with the Ginetta logo and some white and orange Ginetta key lines. If you were at the Le Mans 24 Hours or you watched the YouTube video we did of the LMP3 cars together, it's exactly the same livery on both of the LMP1 cars. We'll be down there in just a couple of moments to talk about those cars. But before we do that, we're going to talk to one of the drivers that is here to drive this car. It is a bit of a surprise package, the 8-driver lineup for the test. I'm welcoming to Inside the Sports Car Paddock to, well, I've just described you as a bit of a surprise package for Ginetta here at the WEC Prologue. But say hello to the listeners. 2003 Le Mans 24 Hours overall winner and 2011 American Le Mans Series champion Guy Smith. Guy, I thought you joined Jonny Adam on the retirement kind of home.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking a leaf out of the Jonny Adam retirement book. In fact, I just pulled him up on it just now. I just saw him. He said, "I thought you'd retired." I said, "Yeah, I thought you'd retired too." So
brilliant.
Yeah,
be a t-shirt,
yeah,
really, shouldn't it?
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So no, it's just it's good fun. Obviously, good friends with Ginetta and Lawrence, and I know Michael Simpson really well at Ginetta. So the opportunity came to test the car and give some feedback on it. And had a run at Paul Ricard recently, and was massively impressed by the package, and obviously come along to the Prologue here to drive it again some more, and just enjoying being back in the car really. A little bit rusty, but it's certainly a great car to be behind the wheel of.
You know a thing or two about prototype driving though, don't you guys? I'm sure they'll value every bit of feedback you've got.
Well, if I can add some value, that's the main thing. Main thing is sort of blowing off the cobwebs, as it were, and then it's starting to come back to me a little bit now. Obviously, having the last 5 years in GT racing, I've kind of had to learn the GT style, and now having to relearn the prototype style. But it's, as I said, it's a lot of fun, and the car is fantastic to drive, and it's very, very engaging. So, to be here, with these guys is going to be a good few days.
I can tell you're looking forward to it because you're grinning like a Cheshire cat and you haven't even driven here yet.
Don't mention Cheshire's bloke who's from Yorkshire. Don't ever mention Cheshire. He's just off on a track walk with the Ginetta factory drivers and development drivers, Mike Simpson and the other bloke, Charlie Robertson, 2015 LMP3 champion from the European Le Mans Series, of course. It's not the first time we've had a title run from Team LNT in prototypes. We let them go. Blistering heat, they'll be coming back looking red as a beetroot. Well, you were going to say something about Dallara, I think, before Guy rudely interrupted us.
Yeah, so in LMP2 this year we've got a bunch of Oricas, as expected. We've got no Ligiers, but we have got a single Dallara P217 from the Acetylar Racing guys, as we mentioned before. And I think with the backing of AF Corse and with them behind the scenes, they'll be hoping for some better results than what they've achieved in the ELMS.
Yeah, I think they will. Car looks stunning. It's still got those Pescarolo green, that's the pit's in buzzer by the way, Pescarolo green highlights on the car. It's not going to be easy to miss this car. That lovely deep blue, it's that two-tone blue finish on it. Team that's looking to move on up, moving on up from the LMS up into LMP2, and they're already talking about what might happen beyond. They have got their eye on whether or not hypercar might be something they might want to do at some point in the near future. There's another new addition, by the way, goes a bit back behind us. That is the United Autosports Orica 07. That switch, of course, we wrote about that on Racer.com and about DailySportsCar.com about what's behind that. The other big change for United Autosports is when they win their next race, we won't be listening to the US National Anthem anymore. We'll be listening to a much better song, God Save the Queen. And we expect, of course, all listeners to Inside the Sports Car Paddock to stand when that is played.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when I spoke to Richard about it earlier, he said to me, for a lot of it, pretty much the entire team of his guys are British, and it just would be nice.
They say British, Yorkshire.
Well, yeah. And when they win a race and they all crowd around the podium, it'd just be nice for them to hear their own national anthem for a change. Just a little bit of a change up.
Well, it's always been an Anglo-US team, but there's been a bit of a change there within. It's not to say that there's been any change in ownership in the team. It's another move on forward. They were flagged as British in both the Michelin Le Mans Cup and in the ELMS, which, by the way, was United Autosports' 300th race, which is pretty amazing stuff. In GT3, in LMP3, in LMP2, in LMP2, different version of course in the Asia Le Mans series. So what next? What do we know next about United Autosports? We'll get to that. Next up though, GT again.
Yes, a bit more GT AM action here. We've got two more Porsches. This is Project One, the now reigning champions in GT AM, and the team that eventually won the Le Mans 24 Hours in the class. They've expanded to two cars, and one of them, at least for the Prologue, is in the art car livery that they ran at Le Mans this year.
Well, it's at the moment they're a two chassis team. They will soon become a three chassis team. One car, of course, dedicated to the ELMS. That car stays over for this Prologue test. Hopefully they'll have their third car here for the opening round of the WEC in Silverstone. You're right, the other car, which will be in the art car livery from Le Mans. Don't expect to see that continuing for the full WEC season. They may be just waiting for a little bit of an injection of cash so they can hand that bodywork as a little piece of artwork on the wall. But great to see, by the way, in the LMS and added to this squad for their full season WEC efforts, David Heimer Hansen.
We mentioned a little bit earlier the Team LNT effort, the two Ginetta G60 LTP1s that are here for the Prologue. It's great to see that chassis back in the FIA World Endurance Championship. Graham, there's a slight difference here, and that comes in the engine department.
Well, yeah, it's if you like, it's a second change, albeit less dramatic change than we saw at the beginning of the programme. Obviously, Ginetta G60 started with the Mechachrome turbo engine. And now we have the AER, but the change you're talking about is the change to P60C engine, the upgraded, lighter, a little bit more power, a little bit more torque engine, more reliability built into that. This is the engine that allowed SMP Racing, sadly now departed from the WEC scene, to finish on the podium, faultless run at the Le Mans 24 Hours. And I think there's lots of good stuff to come here this week. I know there's been a lot of talking down of LMP1. Watch this space. There's some big headlines to come on what's going to happen in LMP1 moving forward through this season. And the Ginetta LMP1 team that designed, built and have been developing this car, and the Team LNT squad that is here to operate this team alongside, by the way, here with the help of Algarve Pro Racing team, who've hung on from the LMS to help out with this team expanding to a two-car effort here. We'll wait to see what the final package and who it is going to be collaborating with them for the WEC. And we heard from Guy Smith a little earlier, some interesting drivers as well. We've Stefan Riquelme, we've got who's the Le Mans and Asia Le Mans Series LMP2 champion with Alpine. We've got Luca Giotto, he is currently running third in the F2 Championship, who's here to talk about our future programme as well. He'll be in one of the cars. Mike Simpson and Charlie Robertson from Ginetta, of course. Matthias Besch from the Rebellion Racing team. Obviously Matthias lost that drive to commercial input from another driver earlier on this year. And two drivers from SMP Racing. Stefan Sarazan here to help with the chassis development of this test. Massive experience, of course, from Stefan, not just in sports cars but Formula One, in rally, where he was for a long time a Pirelli tyre tester, but then of course with both Peugeot and later Toyota as a factory driver before moving on to SMP Racing. So a really interesting group of drivers, and they're not the only drivers that Ginetta are talking to and Team LNT are talking to about this programme. Lots of good stuff to come, some of which, trust me on this, is going to be great news for the fan base.
I think everyone's going to want to see it. There were fan favourites when they turned up at the Prologue, at the start of the Super Season and at Le Mans, and I think that will only continue here. We're going to stroll now a couple of garages across, and it's Toyota Gazoo Racing, which is about to embark on the farewell tour for its TS050 hybrids.
It's an amazing car, and you know what? I know there's been a lot of cynicism about there being no competition and blah, blah, blah. It's the most awesome race car on the planet. And yes, it's a shame that we've not got Porsche and that we've not got Audi, but that's not their fault. It's now a matter of what do we do about seeing what can be done to get better competition across the LMP1 class with the, let's not forget, incredibly rapid non-hybrid cars. What we need, though, is that disparity in the way in which performance is delivered, and in particular some of the rules and regulations around losing time in the pit stops. That frankly needs to go. Let's wait and see what actually the decision is of the rule makers before we go racing in Silverstone. For instance, though, it's worth saying this. at the Le Mans 24 Hours this year, the qualifying time put in by S&P Racing with the same engine, let's not forget, that's now in the back of those Ginettas. The two engines, by the way, here are the two unused spare engines from S&P Racing, the P60Cs. The fastest of the S&P Racing cars was faster on its qualifying lap than any Porsche and than any Audi in history at the Le Mans 24 Hours. That means, for clarity, and by the way, any other Toyota prior to the TS050, that means that car is, in terms of pure lap time, the second fastest car around the Le Mans circuit ever. And at the last test that I was at, where those two cars lapped together, the Ginetta and the S&P Racing car, the difference between the two, without development rubber being a thing, was 0.021 of a second. Quick cars here.
Yes, and I think they'll be looking to show off their new aero package. So here we are at United Autosports. We mentioned briefly earlier that they've got an Oreca, and this is huge news for the LMP2 class, isn't it? It's a real shift.
It's a shift. In some ways it's a bad thing that we've got less variety. In other ways it's a good thing, because clearly United Autosports believe they can be more competitive. Got Phil Hansen and Felipe Albuquerque talking to race director Eduardo Freitas, who's clearly been stalking us down the pit lane, counting down from 10 as he goes. But these guys, Eduardo's explained to them, you won't do this and you won't do that. He knows exactly what he wants from this race. He's not really. This is part of the kind of paddock pace here, is that the senior officials down here talking to some of the more experienced and less experienced drivers and just explaining exactly what it is that's going to be happening on track here. Anything he feels they need to know in the fringes of the driver's briefing, which is going to be another important part of the way the theatre of this test is going to pan out. But United have won in more or less everything they've actually competed in. I've no doubt they're going to be highly competitive with Felipe Albuquerque, with Phil Hansen and with Paul di Resta in this Oreca. No doubt whatsoever about it. We've seen that car just been pushed along by us. We've seen too the Gulf Racing 86 car with fabulously Gulf liveried garage. Another empty garage at the moment, but that's only because of that all cars shot is currently being done on the pit straight. High Class Racing, team you and I know very well, of course, from the European Le Mans Series. They had difficult race yesterday with throttle problems, was it?
Yeah, it was throttle problems, little niggles. It's a real shame for them, because it's their de facto home races. They're based just behind the circuit, and a lot of their crew are very locally based, so for them it was a bit of a shame, but they've already shifted their focus to this event here at the WEC Prologue. They've changed the livery on their current car because they're waiting on their new Oreca chassis, which will do the rest of the WEC season to arrive. And the big news there is their third driver alongside Mark Patterson and Anders Fjordbach, and that is Kenta Yamashita.
Yeah, and Kenta Yamashita, a very much a coming man in the Toyota Gazoo Racing family. He is leading the Super GT Championship at the moment. He's won in just about everything he's ever raced in. And there's no doubt in my mind, as we move towards a hypercar future for the top level of sports car racing, that he, and actually another young man that's just lurking outside the garage next door, we'll have a chat with him hopefully in a moment, are going to have a part to play in that story. Other good news, by the way, because Mark Patterson is here and will drive, and now recovered from that nasty injury he suffered at Monza early in the season with an unfortunate shunt in the wet at Monza that took out both his and unfortunately his teammates' Algarve Pro Racing car. We're not going to get a chance to speak to this driver, I don't think. We might just see whether or not we're going to get a cheeky 30 seconds with Thomas Laurent, who is in the final garage in the pit lane. We're going to see whether or not we can get a quick chat with Thomas, even if he's walking. Thomas, Laurent, great to see you back in the WEC, moving back with an LMP2 team with the Signatec Alpine efforts. Now part, though, of a much more exciting phase in the career with your role with Toyota Gazoo Racing. We saw you, yes, I did, saw you testing out with the team at Paul Ricard. Yeah. First time in the car?
Second, if you count the rookie test 2 years ago in Bahrain. But yeah, first time in this car.
You were testing this version of this car, so it looks to me to be significant changes to that car. It's not just detail. He's kind of giving me that kind of couldn't possibly comment, but not that much different. Tell us a little about what the experience of driving that car is. You've got a good yardstick with the Rebellion from last year.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I'm lucky for this year because I'm the fourth driver with Toyota and the number one with Alpine. So it's a new thing for me. I will discover a new world, let's say, with Alpine and as well with Toyota. And the car was fantastic in Paul Ricard. It was better than Bahrain because I did maybe 20 laps in total.
Yeah.
So
lots of laps at Paul Ricard.
Yeah, around 400, something like that. So yeah, a lot of laps, and the car feels good, and the team is really nice with me, even if I'm the reserve driver. I had some how can I say? I thought at the beginning that they will keep me a bit apart because I'm the fifth wheel, let's say, and no, I'm like an official driver, so that's a good thing for me, and I really enjoying the car, the team, the teammates are really good with me as well, so they give me a lot of advices, and that's really good.
Well, we saw the pace last year in the Rebellion, richly deserved opportunity, and what a rapid step up that ladder it's been for you from LMP3 in Asia, through LMP2 into LMP1, and now LMP1 and LMP2, and in let's face it, the Toyota, whatever else it is going to be, it is the fastest sports car in the world by a distance. Thomas Laurent, enjoy the weekend.
Thanks,
good stuff. That's it. That is the field that's here, the 30 car field that's here for the FIWC Prologue. It's a good looking grid. Some disappointments in getting to where we are here today. It's sad to see SMP Racing, Stephen, not with us for the full season. It's sad too that Rebellion don't look like they're going to get the second car over the line. We're working hand in glove at the moment with the Team LNZ guys working towards their programme of making it a 5-car LMP1 entry. Let's wait and see just what emerges before we get to Silverstone. For now, I'm reasonably encouraged. This is going to be a season bridging a gap between an awesome era in sports car racing to what many hope will be another one, albeit in a very different way with hypercar. That'll be about the look of the cars rather than the pure raw performance. For right now, plenty to look forward to. It'll be interesting to see how the dynamics are actually handled with strength, but not perhaps as much strength in depth in some of the classes here, and actually a championship where we've got more Pro-Am cars than we've got Pro cars now, and that in itself is going to change the way in which, for instance, the challenges of traffic actually manifest themselves. Lots of new names, lots of returning names, lots of storylines, and well, you and I and Marshall Pruitt, I'm sure we'll bring in a hell of a lot of those stories through the next 12 months or so to our audience on Inside the Sports Car Paddock. Take it away.
Yeah, we certainly will. And next up, we've got some interviews with various personalities around the paddock. So without further ado, thanks once again to Cooper Tyres and the Justice Brothers. We'll speak to you soon. Well, I'm here in sunny Spain. We're at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. I haven't moved because the ELMS weekend has just finished, but it's set-up day for the WEC cars ahead of the Prologue. We've got 2 days of testing to come, and somebody I've bumped into first off is Gustavo Menezes, the one of the Rebellion drivers who's been with the team for a while now, and it appears he's going to be one of the drivers who's going to be lapping in one of the 2 R13s that they've got at the Prologue. Gus, welcome to the Inside Sports Car Paddock podcast first off. Tell me a little bit about this week and what it means for you.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. It's always good seeing you guys in the paddock, catching up, and getting back to work. Obviously excited to be back at the track after Le Mans. It was important to have a little break, but still finding it very odd to be starting a new season in July right now. Just thinking about the small things, getting media stuff done, and just thinking, wow, we're shooting for the start of a season midsummer. But anyhow, back to it, obviously. Excited to be back in the car, and it's cool to see new updates to the EOT and see what this coming season holds for the privateer teams versus the Toyota, obviously, in LMP1. And it's also exciting having a little bit of security for the championship, which we were missing with the announcement of Aston Martin's entry. I think it's a nice kind of relief that those regulations finally came out. I'm excited to be here. The car is always a pleasure to drive. I'm going to be sharing it with Bruno Senna. So changing the little number around on my car, driving the number 1 this week, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, so obviously it's been a bit of mystery surrounding who's going to be driving with Rebellion, not only at the Prologue but this season. What can you tell us about your drive? Are you confirmed beyond the Prologue, or is that all that's available at the minute?
Yeah, honestly, as you know, since the end of Le Mans, it's been a very short period of time to kind of get everything sorted, but we've been in talks and things have been very positive. Obviously, the first leading factor is just getting back in the car in Barcelona and continuing progress with the team. And I'll be on a flight to Orica straight after this to kind of figure out what the next steps are. But, unfortunately, the LMP1 class is losing a few cars while others are coming in. I'm just hoping the best for myself, selfishly, and for the team, and we'll figure it all out.
What can you tell us about the team's Prologue program? Because you've mentioned development work that you'll be doing with Bruno. Are we going to see the car looking radically different or anything beyond what we saw at Le Mans?
At the moment, I don't think we'll see massive changes due to that short period of time. We do have a little bit more time until Silverstone, so the team's been working hard and making plans kind of to continue the development of the car for next season. At the same time, Bruno and I will be working really hard to kind of give them positive feedback and working on how we can improve the car and continuously close that gap. Meanwhile, in the other car, we'll be evaluating a few drivers. At least that's what the team's plan is, just to try to kind of fulfill our lineup and confirm exactly which drivers will be where. Obviously, it's always tough losing guys like Andre and Neil and even Thomas. Wishing them all the best going in to roll with Toyota and with Porsche and Formula E. Obviously, it's an incredible deal, and it always looks good driving in white. So I wouldn't complain, but we'll miss them, and the Brazilian Mafia will hold on strong.
Now, you mentioned before about the fact that there's a little bit of change in the P1 class. We've obviously lost the two SMP BR1s, but we've gained two Team LNT Ginettas. You've had a wander up and down this paddock. You're going to get a chance to see what those cars can do on track. I'm sure you've been monitoring the fact that they've been out doing a lot of testing. For you guys, it's going to be a priority. It's obviously going to be seeing if you can get as close as possible and maybe beat Toyota a couple of times this year. But Ginetta's going to be a big bit of competition for you. Looking forward to it?
Honestly, I am indeed. We saw the Ginetta's testing earlier this year in Motorland, and they were much more impressive than they were in the past, and that's also really good. Congratulations to them. I mean, coming through the hard start that they had in the 2018-19 season and having to just drop out, it's always tough. And for them to persevere and come back with a car that's much stronger, it's always great to see. We need health in this championship. We need competition. And to be honest, as a driver, it's not racing if you're not racing with anyone. That's why we've tried to close this gap with Toyota so hard, because the fans want to see us racing. The drivers, we're here to race, and hopefully our gap to Toyota closes, and more than that, Ginetta gets a great opportunity to race with all of us, because that's what WEC needs right now. We need racing, we need health, we need everyone supporting each other. That's the only way to really welcome Aston Martin in next year and continue to grow and stay strong. It's in any sport, it's strong. It's hard to stay at the top as the strongest championship in sports cars for a very long period of time. We know that, IMSA is doing very well, and we're very happy to see that, but WEC has good plans. We just have to stick together and keep the racing healthy. I think that's what's necessary for all the classes.
What was mighty impressive about last season was just how much the privateer P1 cars came on during the year. With the pace of them, by the time we got to the second Le Mans 24 Hours in the Super Season, was astonishing. The amount of work they did behind the scenes on, let's be honest, budgets that are nowhere near Toyota's was incredible. Give us a sense of just how much progress has been made with the R13 since the Prologue before the Super Season as to now.
Yeah, honestly, starting the year, we struggled so much just with finding the balance of the car and understanding. Again, we're taking those hybrids, which are supercars, let's say, and getting our cars, which were LMP2 cars, and giving them every kind of drug in the book to get them to the same pace. That's just a simple breakdown and explanation, but obviously then you run into small problems from reliability to easy mistakes that maybe wouldn't happen because we have to drive so on edge to keep up. But that gap did close over the year, and in Le Mans last Le Mans we were going head and head on some of the averages with the Toyota, so that's already something shocking. We did not expect that kind of pace, so it's very promising. Obviously, as I said, with big budgets come guarantees on reliability, come less mistakes because of the practice and development you can do. Not to say that Toyota doesn't deserve that. They invest that. They deserve all the best that they can turn out of it. I think we just have to kind of clean up the rough edges right now and let the EOT continue to evolve. Hopefully sooner and faster. I think last year it did take a bit too long, and in the last 2 races we had some big closes. Hopefully it happens in a shorter period of time so that we can have a longer period of healthy racing where we're actually going head and head. That's what the fans need. So I have to say good job to the WEC. Hopefully we can close that gap faster so that we have a long, healthy amount of racing throughout the season.
We've had WEC Prologues at places like Monza, we've had it at Ricard. This is the first time we've been here at Barcelona for WEC Prologue. As a test track, what do you make of it? Do you think this is a good decision to come here somewhere new?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been in Barcelona for 5 years now. It's an incredible track. We all love Barcelona. I think every driver has been here several times in their junior career. It's just different. I mean, we're going into a different part of the season. We're not going straight into Le Mans and Spa. We're going into Silverstone and Fuji and Shanghai. So I think going into more of a mid-speed track is going to help us test out our higher downforce packages, which is what we're going straight into. I mean, ideally in the future, I would love to see a Prologue and a low downforce test day before Spa and Le Mans in the championship. I think that's what would be the ideal situation because it is such a long year. But this track, I think, will complement the next few races.
Perfect. Thanks very much for your time, Gustavo, and hope this week goes well for you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Joining me now, here just as the cars are in the middle of the first session of testing, is Vincent Beaumesnil, the ACO's sporting director. And Vincent, there was some big news yesterday regarding the equivalence of technology in LMP1, so we want to get some reaction to that. First off, give the listeners just a brief overview of what was announced yesterday.
The first thing is that we have been working on this EOT, for 1 year and a half now. We have set some principles which were quite innovative in the past, and we have now 1 season of experience during which we have learned a lot, and during which I think we have reached a very good point. If you look, especially the last races and especially Le Mans, where in the end, if you look the pure competitiveness of the cars, the Rebellions, the SMP and the Toyota were at the same performance at Le Mans. There are other parameters that makes a result in the race, but it's a very good step. So then we discussed with the manufacturers, and we said, okay, we would like to go further for the next year and to create a system that is a sporting rule, which means that we are not artificially changing the result of the race, of the sport, of the series. We are just making a rule which is the same for everybody, but that makes just the competition closer and give more opportunities to different competitors to win the race. But in the end, the best, we will see who is the best, but the best should win. Theoretically, with this system, it's what we have done. So the first thing we have done is we have evolved the starting EOT on the cars, which is we have increased the weight of the Toyota. We have aligned the number of laps per stint for all the cars, which was not the case at Le Mans last year. It was the case in Spa, but not in Le Mans. And we have made the refueling time of the non-hybrid cars faster than the Toyota, okay, to compensate the quick start Toyota has with the electric motors. So this is the starting EOT we have. Then we have introduced I'd like to say the cooperation of all the LMP1 teams and also especially Toyota. We have introduced this success handicap system that is based on the championship points. So the more you will have points in the championship, and the more your performance will be affected with regard to the other competitors. What is good with that is that it doesn't allow a team to have some strategy to get some benefit of performance, because once you have a lot of points, even if you go slow on purpose on one race, you will not get some bonus at the following because you have already some points before. So it's just the points for the championship that will affect the competitiveness of the car. So we have defined that each point in the championship would interact in the performance of each car by a value, which is still we are finalizing the values, and then how do we affect this performance is with different parameters that can be weight, power, hybrid boost for the Toyota or whatever. And the technical teams are now working on it now to define exactly the sensitivity of each car, which parameters will be interacted. So we are finalizing. But we have approved the principle. Championship points will rebalance the different cars. So it's how it's defined. And everybody has evaluated and simulated that this system clearly, with what we can evaluate, is expected to give different winners over the season.
Yeah,
so it's a simulation. We see what goes on track, but it's clearly what comes out from our simulations.
So you're confident at this point that this is enough, that we will see from the privateer competition we have real competition on the track, them fighting with the Toyotas and them having a real legitimate chance this time at winning races?
Yes, I think again it's not easy to compete with Toyota, not only because of the technical regulation. They have for sure a very strong driver lineup. They are very strong in strategy, in their ability to adapt to the circumstances of the race. So they have a very high level package. So, and the other teams are very good, and they have made huge progress last season. So I think it's the alignment of all these parameters that gives a chance to the others to win. But on this side, yes, it clearly, if Toyota has the EOT, the starting EOT is already rebalancing in favor of the non-hybrid cars. But even if Toyota has good results on the first races, quickly they will be affected in their performance, so that the other cars would be dominant for the following races. So it's the way it's designed, yes.
And there will be a Le Mans specific process for the equivalence of technology. Give us a little bit of insight into how that will work. Is it going to be radically different to what we're seeing for the main race in the season?
Yes, so the success handicap is not will not be applied at Le Mans because it's the only race where we feel like people could make some strategies to be very slow and not having points in the previous races just to be competitive at Le Mans. So we don't want to have this. But Le Mans, we have a big experience now on the experience of the cars. We have seen in Le Mans that we are able to have Rebellion, and we had also the SMP car, which were exactly competitive as the Toyota on pure potential of performance. So we will. We also have realigned the fuel autonomy, number of laps per stint, and pit stops, etc. So this will be in Le Mans, and then the proper EOT of each car will be defined accordingly to the experience we'll have through all the season. So I'm very confident that Le Mans will be very good, but we cannot apply the success handicap because unless the system we have now prevents you to play some strategies to have some benefits of the success handicap on the normal races, but it could be a reason to do it in Le Mans, so it's why we don't apply it to Le Mans.
Leaving the success handicaps aside, will the rest of the EOT process evolve during the season? Will there be changes made, or is it locked in now for the entire 2019-20 season?
The idea is really to have the success handicap do the job. So that's the way it works and is defined. So and it's good because it's a kind of automatic interaction that doesn't imply decisions of people doing some studies. So it's the way we do it. Of course, we have always the possibility to modify something that we would discover to be wrong at some stage. So if we need to do it sometime to adjust something that is wrong, we will do it, but it's not the original intention.
Do you feel this raft of changes that we've got for this year maybe has come in a little bit too late? We've seen S&P obviously pull out, and they said that they felt that they got to their
1 month ago.
Yeah, but people will say, and we have seen people, fans in particular, saying that this is maybe 6-8 months too late after we saw what happened last year, because we have got a smaller LMP1 class this year.
If you look Fuji and Shanghai last year, the SMP car has been able to be at the same level of performance of the Toyota. So I don't want to go too much in the details of in this discussion, but I think you had on one side a team who is there from 2012 as a reference in LMP1, and other teams coming with new cars. SMP was a new team and a new car. Rebellion had the experience, but they just come from LMP2 and arrived with a new car which had nearly no development when they started the season. So we need to compare what is comparable.
Do you see the things like the success handicap and some of these principles that are in the EOT for this season going forward into 2020, 2021 when we have the new hypercar class?
Yes, the success handicap ballast was one intention, but it was the intention before we decide BOP. We will BOP the hypercar class, so it's not possible for me to give you the details of what we will exactly have. It's under progress at the moment. I cannot tell you.
One last question. We obviously saw the announcements in June, very exciting. We saw the regulations finalised. We saw Aston come up with their programme, Toyota as well. Now we've had a little bit of time to digest that, and we have the regulations. Tell me from your side what the reaction has been like since Le Mans.
Well, first we have a very good working atmosphere with the Toyota and Aston Martin with regards to the finalization of the rules and the definition of their new cars. I really expect a fantastic battle between these two companies. This is the first point. The second point is that now that the rules are finalized, we have many contacts of other car manufacturers who are interested in competing, evaluating the project. I think the base principles we had to adopt these rules were that there is no space today for hypercars in motorsport, which is a shame because it's the cars that make dream the fan and the car enthusiasts as we are. We love the hypercars. These cars are just incredible. Having them in racing, I think it's a real chance for all of us. It gives an opportunity to, I would say, to reach more people because LMP1, I love LMP1. For me, it's the greatest cars ever. But me, I was born in Le Mans and all my life was here. But the people who are not connected in motorsport every day, maybe they don't really understand what is an LMP1 car. When they will see an hypercar, I think they will feel and understand what it is about. So I think these cars are more reachable for a more global audience. And then the final point is that the manufacturers are a real opportunity to do some marketing by promoting their brand with the bodywork. So all these new opportunities are very positive and we are working. So yeah, for me it's of course I would have liked all of this to start earlier, like everybody. But in the end, we have done it, so it's a great satisfaction.
And we look forward to hearing more news as the months come on before the season starts next year. Thank you very much for your time, Vincent. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Joining me now is Jonny Adam, driver of TF Sports' brand new Aston Martin Vantage AMR. He's here at the Prologue to get the first taste with Sally and Charlie of that brand new, gorgeous red Vantage here. Johnny, give us a sense of just how important this Prologue is for the team.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I'm the only driver here on the TF side, but the car only got delivered, I think, 2 weeks ago, so the team haven't had a lot of time to prep it pre-Prologue. But already, straight out the box, good build by ProDrive. Obviously, it's this car and obviously the 98 car, the first proper customer GTE cars, and straight away, car feels really normal, nothing untoward, and it's good to have a couple of days for the team here. As much as we've not done a lot of laps, it's more of an extended shakedown here and system check. It's good for the guys, so now they're going to obviously strip the car apart, check things over, start to learn the car a little bit more. So yeah, for us it's more of a extended shakedown than anything productive, because we have some more testing planned, because unfortunately Sally's not here, as is Charlie, because obviously it's the same week as Spa, so they're busy today, so we've got a few more days planned later on in August to get these guys right comfortable with the car,
Yeah, and just for the listeners at home, that is so new. I believe there's only literally, before you started running here, only a handful of kilometres on that car.
Yeah, it's just a shakedown. I think Charlie had the honour to do it. So yeah, he went to I think it was Brunthethorpe, and he only done like 50 or 60 kilometres, so it was very, very fresh. And I think he literally bedded a few sets of brakes and checked it over, and that was it. But again, these guys have built a car. For example, last year's Le Mans, if you remember, Marco had the crash. They built a car in like 3 days and put it on the track, and without a shakedown it went straight into free practice and didn't even do an install lap, straight into it. So that's the build quality and the level that obviously these guys at ProDrive are building cars now. And it's brilliant to see the move from TF as well, and Sally to continue in WEC. Obviously for them as a team, both him and Charlie to finish third in their first year on WEC, I think is a good achievement, and the team as well. So now with the new package, with the new car, obviously me joining them, they're way up to speed with GTE. And Sally's a fantastic guy to race with, because he's not only fun off the track, he's very driven and serious when he is on track. And for him, WEC is very important, as is Le Mans, because this is the highest level he wants to race at, because it's a world championship. So he pitches his aspirations to try and win this championship this year really high, and I think we've got a good ingredients of drivers. Team TF are fantastic at what they do, really good customer team for Aston, and obviously a new GTE that obviously, as you've seen towards the end of the first year in WEC, it was very competitive, obviously winning 2 races in its first debut WEC season. So I think overall we've got a good package going forward.
Yeah, dear listener, I think Sally Yollick is going to be a name that you're going to be hearing a lot more about. I mean, give us a sense from the programme that he had last year in the WEC just how much he progressed, because he seems to get better every time he gets in the car.
Yeah, Sally's, he's raced not a long time, he's done a lot of GT3 racing, he's done a little of P2 stuff over the winter, but the GTE cars kind of seems to suit his style. He sort of likes a car that has non-ABS. But the great thing, even this year alone, he's actually done some good running in the GT3 version of this car. So chassis wise, okay, the engine's slightly different, but seat and position, driving the car with the controls, they're very, very, very similar to the GTE car. So he is, for me, way up to speed already with the car without even actually driving the GTE. Okay, there'll be fundamentals of getting used to the Michelin tyre, obviously non-ABS, but the actual basics are all there from what he's been doing in Blancpain. So yeah, and you can see throughout the season last year, I remember watching him at Silverstone, where him and Spa, where him and Charlie qualified on pole. Some of his laps towards the end of the year were very special. You can not only deliver in qualifying, he's making less mistakes in the race. His averages are becoming faster and more consistent. So I'm really excited to see Sally obviously improve yet again. But obviously Charlie's a fantastic silver. He's really fast, and the all-round silver that really is good for the team. Sally behind the scenes really listens to Charlie and does a fantastic coaching role, Charlie with Sally. So I think it makes my life a little bit easier knowing that I have a really good lineup in the car, a really fast bronze, but a really good silver that is very good with the team.
My understanding is that you, Charlie and Sally are in for the full season. Last year there was a bit of a rotating third chair. Yeah. Is that consistency a real benefit?
Yeah, it's a little bit easier, because obviously I came in halfway through the WEC programme, and I was only scheduled to do 3 rounds, and it extended to 4, and I had great fun. We got, I think, 2 or 3 podiums in those 4 races, so it was good success. But now I think obviously with the step up in machinery with the new Vantage, again, the team's second year in the championship, etc. I think as a whole, I think we could all step up and really take the fight to some good teams. Obviously there's an extended field this year, 11 cars. I think it's brilliant for Pro-Am, for the Am class, and WEC, and some good quality. Got some good lineups, especially Ferrari and Porsche. Porsche's obviously had a really good car last year. Proton are obviously looking strong again. Project One are extending to 2 cars. Obviously a lot of good fast Ferraris, and then you've got obviously our sister Aston car with Paul Delana confirmed in the car. So I think it will be hard to beat these guys, because obviously they're obviously a very good team and good lineup, but it's nice to have a little bit of customer against obviously factory based battle in between the Astons.
Yeah, because there's so much talk going into the season about LMP1, the status of that. We've got P2 with a bit of a tyre war, plenty of good teams. GT Pro, that's always got a spotlight on it, but GT Am, with the field it's got this year, I'm sure you think this could be the class of the season racing-wise, couldn't it?
I think so. You see, 11 cars, but it's the field and quality of all the manufacturers that are involved now. You can see Aston, Ferrari and Porsche are making good products that customers are obviously starting to buy and starting to race at ELMS, but more so this championship. So am I right in saying it's maybe the biggest GT EAM class that there's been?
Yeah,
so it's good, but the strength of it, if you look through all 11 entries, there's some fantastic lineups of pros, silvers and bronzes in that, and the BOP's always fair. I think these, this championship, there's a great formula of how they control the BOP, and it'll be more about consistency throughout the year.
We have success ballast this year, am I correct? What are your thoughts on that?
The only championship I've ever done that in is British Touring Cars, really enough, way back in the day. And yeah, I mean, the championship have put this in place. It seems to obviously, in ELMS, it seems to level a little bit of the field out, but I've never experienced it in a GT formula, so I think it will be an interesting one. But in any championship, I think even with the success ballast, consistency on results is the key thing, So as a team, obviously TF, we're looking at making the pit stops cleaner, trying to improve wheel changes, fueling of the car, trying to get really in depth, because the cars are so balanced on performance that drivers, if they do a good job, they're all going to be within a tenth or two. So where do we make the extra difference? Well, it's into the team, So TF are already at that level, and they're looking to eke that performance out even more, which is good.
Jonny, you're a star. Enjoy the season. Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Well, welcome. Green indeed. Welcome to the show, Lawrence Tomlinson, the CEO of Ginetta Cars and the team principal for Team L&T. He's here with both G60 LTP1s powered by the new AER engine. And let's start off, Lawrence, by saying it's fantastic to see both cars out for the first time since Le Mans 2018, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be at the Prologue. We've only just the number 6 car as it is now. We've had a shakedown here really, because it's the first time we've fitted the AR engine into the second car. So it went really well. We spent a lot of time yesterday doing systems checks and faffing around, but it was pretty fast straight out of the box. We're happy with it.
Pre-season testing has gone pretty well from what I understand. I was at one of them to see you guys run at Spa. The car's been reliable. It's also been quick. I think you've turned some heads here, haven't you?
I think reliability has been great with the chassis all along. We didn't get very much testing with the previous engine. It's called motor racing for a reason, and the motor we have now is far superior to the previous one we had. Clearly it has a lot more power, and it's also very reliable, so it's allowing us for the first time to have consistent running with the car. When we went to Le Mans 2018, when Mike Simpson took the checkered flag, the car had never continuously run for more than 2 hours, so it was a minor miracle that we got to the end. So I think chassis reliability was great. Engine reliability of the P60B AR engine was good for us, and now we're on the P60C, which was the engine I believe that SMP did the 24 hours and finished third with. So yeah, fingers crossed.
And one of the other talking points and a big focus of the testing has been tyres. We know that Michelin had come with a new spec to sort of solve some of the issues that the privateers had last year with getting the temperature up into the front. So have they been as much of an improvement as everyone would like?
Yeah, and we did the pre-season tyre test with Rebellion and SMP at Aragon, and that tyre was a big improvement there in those conditions. Since then, we've actually got the medium tyre was working very well on our car. We made some adjustments, and now we're redialing in the car to the new spec tyre that we're using, the medium hot here, which is the hardest tyre. And Barcelona today is just so hot. I think it's outside the window. After like 11:30 in the morning, and maybe we won't run again now until 6 p.m. just because the track's probably up at 50 degrees C.
Going forward, there was big news earlier this week with the equivalence of technology bulletin that the ACO and FIA released. It's clear that they are trying to make strides to ensure that the privateers can hang with the Toyotas. Vincent Beaumesnil, when he spoke to me, was a very confident man that this is going to work. How do you feel at this stage?
Well, I was at the meeting, and Team LNT are one of the teams who would have a vote to veto it if we'd have wanted to. But I think it's a great idea. I think it's actually Toyota brought the thing to the table, which I think was very good of them. But also, I think everyone realises that we want to see a race at the front of the grid in the top class. It's good for Toyota, but more importantly, it's good for motorsport generally and sports car racing. I mean, first and foremost, I've been a fan of sports car racing for years. I mean, before I got involved with motorsport at all, I used to go to Le Mans every year and watch the Jaguars run there, or the not the XK150, the XJR things, Silk Cut Jags, the Mazdas, etc. And it was always a good, close race at the front, and that's what the fans want to see at Le Mans. But also in WEC, I mean, WEC's a very popular series from a spectator point of view, so they need a race at the front. They need to understand what's happening, and I think the ACO and FIA have addressed the issues very well. Toyota are now allowing themselves to be balanced to performance, I guess, in effect, by a third party. So they've agreed to that, as Ginetta have agreed to be balanced, and so have Rebellion Orica. So yeah, it's great. I just the details of it are all written down, but it's basically whoever's winning the championship points gets to carry some penalty, where I guess whether that is a weight penalty or perhaps a fuel flow, that would be down to the ACO and FIA to decide on a suitable method of slowing the fastest cars down. So good for Ginetta for sure.
And what do you think about the composition that you are going to have in P1 in general? Obviously, we've still got the two amazing TSO 50 hybrids, which we know what they can do, and we know that they've done a lot of work in the off-season to improve their cars. Rebellion are coming back. We don't quite know the extent of their programme at the moment, but they'll still be there. What do you think about the way that the P1 class is shaping up?
Well, I think the Rebellion Orica's a fantastic car. Our target is clearly to initially be quicker than Rebellion and be quicker than SMP, and then to be as quick as Toyota. I mean, that's why we're here. That's what we have to do. We know it's not a simple task, and there's a lot of work to be done. But the chassis is really good. We've spent a lot of time developing the car. We've probably spent over a 5 months period. We've probably spent 5 weeks in the Williams wind tunnel with the chassis, and literally millions of CFD calculations. So it's a good package. We've mated it with the AR for the first time, and we're quite close to Rebellion if you look at the sectors, and we're not a million miles from Toyota. We are. The Ginetta is actually quicker in some of the sectors. So it's a case of looking at that and working on our strengths. There's certainly a lot of time to come from the Ginetta because the other guys have been doing it for 3 or 5 years. So our chassis testing really only started in anger probably 6 months ago, and we've had 9 days on different tyres, and it kind of rains and all sorts of different things, but yeah, we're excited about it.
We've seen an array of driving talent here in the back of the garage turning laps. As it stands, what can you say about the drivers and how the team will be formed? I know we've seen Algarve Pro guys have been here helping run the cars. It's all quickly forming, we know that, but where does it stand right now?
Well, the last point first, I guess, the Algarve Pro have been very helpful for us because it was the ELMS weekend here at Barcelona. So we arrived on the Sunday, Monday to set up, but rather than bringing all our equipment down here, we've used Algarve Pro's fillers, and it's just logistically so much easier for us. And we're using some of their guys to run the number 5 car and do some engineering on it, which is it's nice to have a fresh pair of eyes and a very good race team looking at that car whilst we do the installation on car number 6 and run car 6 with all our Team LNT guys. So it's nice friendly carry on in the garage. The cars are turning good laps. We're working through issues and around installation and things like that, but we're finding our feet. We're finding a good base setup. There's such a lot of time to come from the car, we hope, in the future, and we probably could do to go to a 4-post rig, and with the new tyre, that would probably be a good idea for us soon.
And drivers, have you made decisions yet, or is that something that's going to be announced a bit closer to Silverstone?
Yeah, when I answered the last question first, I did avoid answering the first question first then, didn't I? Or the first question second, so now you bring me back to it. I'm not really avoiding it in particular, it's just that there is no real major update to give. I can say that we've tested all the guys that were here, so, for example, Stefan Sarazan, there's a list of people who are here. But we've also tested people outside of this Barcelona Prologue who are interested in the programme. We're going to make a decision in the next couple of weeks who we are going to put into the car for Silverstone, and we'd probably like that lineup to be a season-long lineup, including Le Mans. We'd also, obviously, because we've got the 2 LMP1 entries, if we do WEC for the whole year, there is a potential to run a third car, so another team could maybe even just do Le Mans with some really quick drivers and have another shot at the title, because 3 cars is definitely better than 2, and we've got another chassis sat in the workshop at home. So all of the drivers bring a different kind of flavour to the team, and some are quicker in different areas, some have different levels of experience, some have been with me since Ginetta Juniors. It's
useful.
It's very good. I mean, this is the first time we've had a really stellar lineup of fully experienced LMP1 drivers, and they have all absolutely loved driving the car, because the car isn't trimmed out. They don't feel like they've got a revolver to their head, when they're going into a fast corner. Their back's not trying to step out. It's a very civilised car to drive. So they've very much enjoyed the experience of driving it, and everyone is saying that there's so much more time to come out of the chassis. Especially Stefan Sarazan, he was here for just about half a day. Had to leave because of some other commitments, but when people like that like your car, it's a fantastic compliment and an honour to have him in the car.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of listeners out there who will remember the Team LNT days from some of the earlier racing that you've been a part of in the early 2000s, really. But it's been a while since we've seen them hit the track for a major program. You must be pretty pleased to have that name back out there in sports cars.
Well, yeah, that's great. 2003 and 4 we were running TVRs, British GT. We ran one of the cars as part of the Synergy team at Le Mans, the Purple Monster TVRs. And then we had a full TVR program of ELMS 2005. 2006 we switched to one car program in ELMS and Le Mans. And 2000
did pretty well at Le Mans that year.
We did okay, and then we had 2 cars, Panos, so 2007. Then 2009 we returned to Le Mans with the Ginetta Zytek, which was kind of a rebadging exercise, but I was a big shareholder in Zytek at the point, so it was part of what we were doing. 2009, but since then, we developed the many cars along the way, many Ginettas, obviously, culminating in the G58, which is kind of like an LMP2 pace car for gentlemen drivers or for track. So we've always been doing the testing and development of the cars. Mike and I racing all over the place, actually, in the G57s and 58s. So we've never been away. It's just that we've not had officially under name of Team LNT as an entrant. So yeah, it is really great to be back, and especially with our own fully in-house built Ginetta.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. It's been a pleasure, and I'm sure I'm not alone in getting pretty excited to see what the G6s can do when we go racing next month at Silverstone. Thanks for your time as always, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. It's going to be an exciting year for us. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Sam Hignett's joining me now. He's the team principal of Jota Sport and Jackie Chan DC Racing's LMP2 effort. Sam, welcome to the Marshall Pruitt podcast. We're here at the Prologue. There's so much to talk about in LMP2. Let's start off with your team. Give the listeners some full clarity on the evolution of the Jackie Chan DC Racing effort and the fact that it's now kind of spawned into two teams.
Yeah, so we've historically for the last 2 years run the two cars on behalf of Jackie Chan DC Racing. Jota are the team underneath it, the mechanical service provider to the brand, which is Jackie Chan DC Racing. This year the budget wasn't there to do two cars properly, so we consolidated down to one car for Jackie Chan DC Racing, but it's freed up our capacity, so we were able to run a second car as Jota Sport, which is the car that will be driven by Roberto Gonzalez, Pastor Maldonado and Anthony Davidson.
And you must be a little bit excited to get the Jota Sport name into the WEC for a full season, because obviously that's a huge part of your life and has been for a long, long time.
Yeah, exactly. We've done the WEC on a race-by-race basis as Jota Sport, originally with the Zytek, which then became the Gibson over the years, and we've won plenty of races as Jota in the WEC, but it's great to do a full season entry and have a go at winning the championship.
What does this say about Jota Sport's aspirations in sports cars, that they've got a specific team dedicated to them now?
The aspiration is always to keep the Jota Sport brand at the forefront of the sports car field and to do everything we can, but it's very difficult commercially to make it work running under your own brand. So more often than not, certainly in our case, we've had to sell the rights to the brand to a third party, be it Jackie Chan DC Racing or G-Drive or Charus or whoever it's been over the years.
Some of the best teams in sports car racing, we might add. P2 this year is a class that I think are going to have a lot of eyes on it. We've got P1 numbers a little bit down, so in prototype terms I think a lot of people again are going to be looking to P2 for some of the big prototype battles through traffic. What do you think of the P2 field we got this year?
I think it's strong, really strong. It's probably, in terms of across the board, the strongest we've seen. I think last year was quite difficult in terms of there was Alpine, there was Dragon Speed, and then there was ourselves, and the year before that there was ourselves and there was Rebellion. So I think this year there's a really good spread. There's some very good teams stepped up from ELMS. A lot of teams now using the Oroco chassis, I mean in fact the vast majority, so that initial advantage is waning, although we've got more experience with the car than others and know how to get the best out of the car. But it does look like it's going to be really close. There's at least six cars that can have a really good go at winning races there.
LMP2 is the only class with a tyre war, and I think a lot of people are going to be keeping a close eye on what Goodyear bring to the party and their resources. You're sampling the tyres, I imagine, for either the first or one of the very first times here that you're going to be running in 2019 at Barcelona. What's your impressions on Goodyear so far, their effort, and what you think they'll bring to this championship?
I think they've turned up here with a tyre that's right in the ballpark and seems to be working very well. It's very difficult conditions because of the heat, and as we all know, Barcelona is a very tricky track in terms of the way it evolves over a day during testing. But the product seems to be good, and we've had a long-standing relationship with one of Goodyear's partner companies, Dunlop, and so for us it was a simple question really that we just continue that relationship. I think Le Mans this year was our 10th Le Mans on Dunlop tyres, and so it made sense to continue the relationship and work with them to develop the Goodyear tyre and the product in four-wheel racing.
Well, obviously it looked pretty simple from just looking inside the garage that you've made your decision already, being seen as there's a huge Goodyear sticker on the side of one of your cars. But so was there any consideration ever to sample the Michelins at least?
Well, there was a brief discussion amongst the engineers as to what we should do, but then it's another factor is, having seen the vast majority of the field go on to Michelins, we've got to look for a strategic advantage somewhere, and we believe that will be with the Goodyear tyre.
Strategy is something that's going to be a little bit different as we go through the season this year. We've got more varying formats than we've ever had in the WC. We've got Le Mans 24 hours, we've got the 1,000-mile race at Sebring, we've got a couple of 4-hour races in there, we've got an 8-hour race. Does that excite you, the fact that we've got a calendar that, whilst as many of the circuits we've been to before, the races are going to be different lengths?
Yeah, it certainly mixes it up, makes it more interesting. The best endurance championship I've ever been involved in was the American Le Mans series, and they had everything from an hour and a quarter race up to the 24-hour races, and the strategic differences that brought was what made it really exciting. And some cars, tyres and drivers fare better in the short races than the long races, so it gives you a real sway in who's going to be quickest each event you go to.
Before I let you go, I want to talk a little bit about some bigger topics in sports car racing, and I guess the biggest one at the moment is hypercar. And now it'd be easy for me to just ask, Jota go into hypercar, and could ask everybody down the paddock the same question. But I think at this point, one of the things I want to ask you is how you think it's going to impact LMP2, because we've seen that there's going to be a difference in performance from these hypercars from 2020, and it looks like the LMP2 cars may be slowed. Is that a disappointment? If you heard any more, is there discussions ongoing between the teams? How's it all working?
No, there hasn't been any discussions yet between the organisers and the teams regarding that. I think it would be a shame if they slowed the car, but I also think people need to not get hung up on average lap time versus outright lap time at Le Mans, because they're two very different things. So,
very good point.
Yes, in the face of it, maybe the P2 cars would need to be slowed down, but actually, when you look at average lap times, there's still a gap to what they're proposing for hypercar and what a P2 car would do on average at Le Mans. So it's not the gap we're used to, which could make it really exciting, but there is still a gap. So I would hope that they'd just leave the P2 cars alone and let them race and be closer to the front than the LMP1 cars. If an LMP1 car wins by 1 lap or whatever it is nowadays, 12 laps, it makes very little difference to the spectator. The fact that the cars can be closer in performance would be really exciting.
You're a stakeholder in this championship, and you have been for a while now. Do you like what you've seen with the way that this is going philosophically? Because obviously, whatever happens to that top class has an impact on the rest of the field.
Yeah, I'm very glad to see a decision's been made, and there is a definitive set of guidelines as to what the top class is going to be now, because it enables the manufacturers and the teams like us to get on and try and build our programs for the future. And I think the solution they've come up with is positive. I think it's good, it's attractive to the manufacturers, it's a more sensible budget than what we've seen in LMP1 previously, so it's more accessible to many manufacturers and some of the very wealthy privateers. So yeah, for me it's a positive step. It just remains to be seen how many people jump on the bandwagon.
Final question then, because I can't resist. Jota's had partnerships with Our Motorsport. Our Motorsport's had affiliations with Aston Martin, and in particular the Valkyrie project. Is there anything going on there in the background? Are you looking at it? Because we know there's going to be customer cars for Aston Martin.
As Our Motorsport, it's certainly something we're looking at. There's no hiding from the fact that Our Motorsport have said on the record they'd like to go to Le Mans, and there's no hiding from the fact, as you say, that they're heavily involved in Valkyrie and Aston Martin. And Jota. So there's an interest from all the parties there. Obviously, we need to see what happens.
Fabulous. Well, we look forward to seeing how it all develops, and we look forward to the current season. Thank you so much for your time, Sam, and we will catch up very soon. Thank you. I've got James Calado from AF Corse with me now. James, thanks for joining us on the Inside the Sports Car Paddock podcast. You must have a bit of a spring in your step from the events that took place in June, winning Le Mans.
Yeah, not that long ago that we won, obviously. Not much time to recover properly, and obviously for the guys in the team, it's been a bit of a task getting all the new cars, new bits, everything ready for a new season. But looking at the car now, it looks awesome. It's a brand new car, and hopefully we can start the season on a high by doing our program, which we've got set for the tests over the next 2 days, and trying to extract a bit more performance, ready for a good season starting from Silverstone.
Are you finding it a bit strange to have to shift your focus to a brand new season at this time of year? I know I am.
It's different. It is definitely different, because I feel like I'm halfway through a year almost, or halfway through a season, so it doesn't feel like I'm starting again. However, it is a new season, and you've got to try and take that approach on board and start from the very beginning.
GT Pro this year, a little bit down on numbers, no Ford, no BMW, but it still looks strong, doesn't it, with Porsche and Aston? Yeah,
like I said before, it's a shame that they're both out of the championship. I'm sure we'll see them back at some point in the future. But it's even though there's only 3 manufacturers, there's still 6 cars, and although it doesn't sound like there's many, it's a very competitive 6 cars. You've got great drivers. We go to Le Mans, we had an awesome grid there. So as a driver, I think you just need to go for the approach in that it doesn't matter how many cars are on the grid. You just do the same job every time and try and go and win races, and that's what's important.
Is this a circuit that you think's useful for pre-season testing here at Barcelona? It's the first time we've been here, isn't it, in WEC?
Yeah, it's a good test track from memory. I mean, when I used to test here, it was normally in single-seaters. So I've only ever done one race here, which is a Blancpain GT3 race. So at that time, it was very demanding, or it was very tricky. So it'd be nice to actually try in a GTE where we've got a little bit more grip. I've not been on it since it's been fully resurfaced. I think it's been resurfaced. I'm not sure, but yeah. It's a good test track, and it's got a variety of corners which are quick, slow, and straight. So yeah, we've just got a program, and we'll follow that and see what we can do.
What are your expectations this season with performance from the team? You've obviously won the world title still pretty recently. It feels like only yesterday I was there when you won the title. Yeah. Won Le Mans recently as well. Can you do it all in one season?
Yeah, of course we can. I think if you look at Ferrari's history, or AF Corse's history over the last few years, I think we've been the dominant force. It was tricky last year with the new regulations, with the auto BOP and things like that, so it was just another task that we need to manage. And going forward from Le Mans, success, I think we can do a good season. I think the key is consistency. It's not just about speed, and just scoring as many points as we can. So I think we can do it, and I'm pretty confident.
On reflection, now you've had a bit of a chance to think about the last season, the Evo spec 488 GTE. What were your thoughts on that package as it went through, and it effectively the results came late in the season, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, the original package was absolutely fantastic, but then unfortunately for BOP reasons, a lot of it was taken away. So at the end of the day, I think actually we didn't gain anything. We, if not lost a bit of performance compared to the previous car.
In what way?
We just lost a bit of downforce. I don't know if you can see, but we've got no front flaps on the car. So we used to have the front, what do you call them? Like, yeah, like ridgeways, which really helped. And with those, it was good, but then they took them away, and we lost a lot of front downforce. So we had to change the whole way the car reacted, the setup, the ride heights, everything to try and compensate. So we lost performance. Not to say that it's slower, but for sure we didn't gain anything.
Did it feel like a specifically different car then, because of those changes?
Yeah, same car but different balance. Yeah, a loss in front aero.
Perfect. Thanks very much for your time, James. Best of luck this season.
Thank you.
Joining me now in the middle of running at the Prologue on the first day is Alex Lynn, one of Aston Martin Racing's full-season factory drivers. Alex, thanks for joining us on the Marshall Pruitt podcast. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of talking about the upcoming season, tell me about this Prologue in particular. Is Barcelona a useful circuit? I know you guys aren't using the 2019 tyres. Is there much you can learn?
I think, Barcelona as a layout is actually the reference for most racing categories all over the world. In Europe, certainly, whether it's Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3, sports car racing as well, it is the reference that most manufacturers and constructors use to define their tyres, their aero, everything. So from that side, Barcelona is really the law when it comes to how good is your car. So actually, yeah, I think it's quite a cool location. Maybe a little bit more relevant than Paul Ricard. So from that side, I like it. And yeah, we're day one here and just trying to run through our program.
Is it a big disappointment that you haven't got the 2019 tyres from Michelin for this test? John Gore told us that you wouldn't be able to sample the next year's tyres here at Barcelona.
I'm under the illusion that we do have a few sets, not a million sets, but a few.
Maybe it's changed since we spoke.
So we've got a little bit, so enough to get a back-to-back feeling. That's under the. I believe I've already driven on them. So from that side, we've got a reference.
So did you notice a difference?
Yeah, we've been working extremely hard with Michelin since we brought out this new car to actually develop very fast, because we had to make a quick decision first time round with what construction and compound we wanted. So yeah, I've been quite in depth with the whole process actually as the season's gone on, just improving, and yeah, I think we've got a nice solid base.
Is it a fair assessment to say that last season one of the big challenges for the Aston Martin Racing team was getting used to the Michelin tyres with the new car?
Yeah, certainly. I think, like I said, unfortunately the decision to switch to Michelin was quite late, so we did have to rush the process of what construction do you want, what compound, all of that sort of jazz. So from that side, yeah, it was a rush, and I think we paid the price for it in quite a few races. Certainly the hotter ones, higher tyre degradation. We lost out to our competitors. There's no lying about that. But it just made us hungrier to get it right this time round. So I'm just fingers crossed that it gives us the results we want.
You did get your first win with Aston Martin Racing during the last season. That must be a massive confidence boost going into a fresh start with 2019-20 and what you can achieve.
Yeah, I think honestly we had a really nice run of form coming off of Shanghai. We had certainly in the 97 with Shanghai was strong. Sebring was strong even though we didn't get the result. And then we won in Spa, which was a real relief, because I think certainly on our side of the garage, not just us as drivers, but the engineering crew, mechanics, they put in a lot of graft, and we hadn't got the podium and the trophy and the champagne to actually feel the success. And then we won that mega race in Spa, which honestly made everything worth it.
GT Pro down on numbers this year, but it appears it hasn't changed anything in terms of the eagerness that Ferrari and Porsche are going to bring to this championship. They want to win it just as much as you guys do. What do you think of the competition this year? Because we have got two new cars in the class.
Yeah, I think the competition is as strong as ever. when you're racing against a manufacturer like Ferrari and Porsche, those two names don't exactly come with any non-knowledge, I'd say. They know what they're doing, as do we. But certainly I think the depth in the championship is extremely high still, and everyone's just as motivated to pick up the biggest trophy.
Is it a bit of an eyebrow raiser that Porsche bring two brand new spec cars, considering the one from last year's just come off a 5-race win streak in IMSA?
Yeah, it's a new one for me, but at the end of the day, like I said, Porsche aren't exactly a brand that mess around, so I respect it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they perform, whether they can adapt as quickly as you guys did and be able to win races in the first season with the car. Give us a sense of just how much you learnt about that Vantage AMR over the course of the Super Season, because it was a long championship, wasn't it, that season?
Yeah, and honestly, I can't really stress enough, there was a lot of long nights and early mornings that the crew had back in Banbury with the car, and there was a lot of long hard races for us as drivers, slogging it out in the cockpit, but the wins we took were dramatic enough and emphatic enough that it made all of that pain worth it. Whether it was the sister car in Shanghai and us at Spa, honestly we had to dig so deep and stay motivated with some of the hard. But that for me is the essence. Is you look at the competition we had, whether it was BMW, Ford, Porsche, Ferrari, those manufacturers, they know what they're doing, and every single point and position has to be earned. It is not given. With a brand new car with not a lot of testing, we had to try and dig out results, because also there wasn't a lot of racing to do in a short space of time, so it was a big long gap, so actually trying to get momentum was hard.
Feels like we've got a bit more momentum now because the gap between the Le Mans and this has been so short.
Exactly, and that's I think actually what the championship needs. It needs more momentum. It needs more races in a more short space of time, and just get going really.
Before I let you go, I want to cast your mind back to Le Mans. We saw what that car can do around that circuit. We saw it take pole. But we get asked frequently on the Week in Sports Cars podcast what it was that made the difference for Aston during the race. Because we saw it lead at the start, but after that something was lacking. Was it purely the BOP change? Was it tyres? Was it conditions? What's the team's thoughts on what actually happened?
I mean, to be honest with you, the car has always been extremely strong in qualifying because, to be honest, it's a really great car. But in essence, it's also why it's very good in the rain. It puts a lot of energy through the tyre naturally, so it creates a lot of front grip, a lot of downforce, and it switches on the tyres really well. So in qualifying and the rain, it's lightning fast, and it has been all season. There's no doubt now. We had front rows at Silverstone, and we didn't have it in the race. We had front rows, I think, on pole position in Fuji, not fast enough. We gradually throughout the season improved that aspect of the car, and it became extremely competitive. Hand on heart, did we believe we had enough to win the race at Le Mans? No, I don't think we did. I think we had good pace, but I think what Ferrari had and some other manufacturers was a bit too much. But in essence, I think we had a really strong case to have a good race, consistent race, without the BOP change. And then when that happened, then I think unfortunately it was unjust and not right, in my opinion.
Final question then. I can't let an Aston Martin factory driver interview go without mentioning what we saw announcement wise in June. You must have a little bit of a grin on your face for seeing that Aston Martin are doubling down on their efforts in endurance racing, bringing a hypercar program for 2020.
Yeah, I think we need to see how it plays out. I think obviously I'd love to have the chance to win Le Mans overall. All honesty, I'm just really focused on I want to win this World Championship this year, and then if I get the chance to win Le Mans overall, then that would be the cherry on the cake. But right now, I think all focus is on this.
And just to reassure the listeners who maybe love the GT racing program, love the fact that it's long-standing, that hypercar program is not having an effect on what you guys are doing here currently in GT Pro, is it?
I mean, from my side, I don't think so. I think John Gore is the person to ask, and also the powers that be. But from my understanding, GT racing is the bedrock of Aston Martin Racing, and it has been for years. So from that side, I don't believe that will ever stop. And then the hypercar can just complement that.
Perfect. Thanks very much for your time, Alex, and enjoy sunny Barcelona when you get behind the wheel.
Thank you very much.
Anders Fjordbach, driver of High Class Racing's LMP2 Orica, is joining me now. And Anders, you've been here for a while with the ELMS race last weekend. There's a lot of changes in the team for your first WEC effort. New teammates, using the Goodyear tyres for the first time. Anders, how's it all gone so far?
Very well. We are really happy to be here, but it's obviously been a long week for the team and for me. I think we have a lot of things to learn regarding the WEC regulations and the new tires and the new drivers. So it's been a busy days with meeting some of the drivers for the first time, Kenta-san, and obviously I know Mark from Asian Le Mans Series. But for now it's been really good. We have a lot to learn on the new Goodyear tires, and we are really interested to see where they will take us.
Is it a seamless transition when you run in the European Le Mans Series full time to the WEC? Because obviously you're running in the same class, in the same formula, but it's a very different championship and a different paddock atmosphere, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. So it's easy to get a bit scared of a world championship, but at the end of the day, it's the same drivers in the same kind of cars. I don't think that WEC is quicker than ELMS. Some claim so, but I don't think Lapierre is leading the class in the cool in the ELMS, and he's doing the same in cool in WEC. So I'm pretty sure that we just need to focus on our tires, which is new for this season. It's the first time Goodyear is in the LMP2, so we have a really tight relationship with them, and we are happy to. We are really interested to see where we can end up.
One of the biggest changes for high class this year has been the switch from the Dallara to the Oreca chassis. You've had a few ELMS races and, of course, the Le Mans 24 Hours for the first time for the team this year under your belts now. Give me a little bit of evaluation. Has it been the step you thought it would be?
Yeah, I think we're really impressed by the Oreca. The Dallara has a lot of benefits as well, but the Oreca is obviously our favorite choice, and this is our third race here in Barcelona, and we have a lot to learn, and we see all these small, not issues, but things we had to learn with the Dallara. This is all starting over again here with the Oreca. So in Paul Ricard, we had a massive tire wear, way too much. In Monza we had no tire wear, and at Le Mans we finally went in the middle, and we had a really good race pace. So Barcelona was a little strange weekend for us. We had ups and downs. We were really fast and we were really slow at some points, but I think especially during the race we have a really good package. So at least on Dunlop now we know where we are, and we are ready to fight for some results.
Obviously the tyre testing is going to be one of the key parts of this Prologue test, but for those of you at home may not know that high class racing is based literally at the circuit, right behind the pit lane grandstand here. So you come here a lot, you've driven this circuit plenty of times. Outside of just sampling the Goodyear tyres, is there much else that the team can gain from these 2 days of running?
Yeah, especially our team, because the Oreca is new to us, so we can learn something. I'm sure teams which has existed for a long time, like Alpine, tested the cars a million times, and they also ran the car for the last 2 seasons. They have less to learn than we have, so we just try to maximize our track time and get as much data as possible.
It may have come as a surprise to some of the fans of the WEC and the LMS to see you guys on the entry list for the WEC season this year. How long was this all in the works before we saw the entry list coming out?
It was a really close call. We just managed to file the entry minutes before the deadline, so it all went from zero to a huge program, and a massive step up for the team, and a lot of organization work has to be done the next weeks, and it's really interesting for the team.
You must be hugely excited to be able to experience not only just the feeling of being in a world championship, but there's a lot of fantastic circuits on this calendar, isn't there?
Yeah, it's mainly the biggest change from the LMS. So at the LMS, you know who will be strong on that track, and we are looking forward to a specific track because this is the one we like the most and all this. But now we are traveling all the world, and also that we don't have the possibility to test on the tracks before, because you don't just take a couple of days to Brazil to do a test day. So I'm really interested to see where we'll file in when we go to Brazil or wherever we're going. So, and for a driver, it's always nice to see new tracks, and especially these tracks which is gathered in the WEC. They are top class, every one of them.
I think there'll be plenty of attention on the team because you've got Kenta Yamashita embedded in the driver lineup. He's here effectively on official capacity for Toyota, isn't he, as a sort of young up-and-coming development driver. Tell me a little about the background of how he's ended up at high-class racing and how he's fitted in with the team so far.
Yeah, we definitely need a bigger trailer with all the Japanese guys who's attending at our briefings. So we're really, and I'm really happy to have him as a teammate. I believe there's nobody quicker than him, and I know Kamui, he's super impressed by him. He's never seen a driver as quick as Kenta. So
that's Kamui Kobayashi.
Yeah. So I'm really interested to see where we are when he gets a bit more time in the car and we get the tires sorted. So I'm really, really happy to have him on board. And to answer your question, I'm pretty sure that with the partnership we have now with Toyota, this will also help the team.
What is the overall expectation that you have going into the season? Because sure, we know you're a very talented driver. We know that Kenta has won and scored podiums in practically everything he's ever driven. But you're one of the teams that's very much a Pro-Am lineup with Mark Patterson, who's been around a very long time. He knows his stuff, but this isn't an effort which is a super silver and a couple of golds. What can you achieve this year?
It's a good question. So it's a really good question, depending on where the other guy's finishing. So we focus on our own thing. We try to maximize our package and the three of us, and we obviously try to show the best and make the best performance that we can give. And I'm pretty sure Mark is a pretty good bronze, and there's a few other bronzes here. So I think we should be able to do a pretty good result. And you never know. You saw also another astonishing finish of Dragon Speed. They won a race in ELMS, and to be honest, I think to win a race in ELMS is more difficult than winning a race in WEC. So everything is possible.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time, Anders, and we wish you and the entire high class racing team very best of luck for your first season in the World Championship.